So good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. Father Charles Sim is a Jesuit from Singapore. He was ordained in 2001 and is at the moment the director for the Ignatian Spirituality and Counseling Center for Singapore, and this is located in the parish of St. Ignatius, which is also my parish. So he is active in the parish as well, in the parish of St. Ignatius. But his main job at the moment is the head of program for the Masters of Counseling at the Singapore University of Social Sciences, as well as being the couple and family therapist at the Psychological Medicine Department of the National University of Singapore Hospital. He is a clinical member of the Association of Marital and Family Therapy in Singapore and a fellow of the Asian Academy of Family Therapy, Hong Kong. So he has a lot of experience. He has studied in many places. You can read all about it on page 20 because there's lots of places to name. He has spent years in the US to hone his skills, as well as doing practical work in King's College Hospital in England. So I pass you over to Father Charles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy, and thanks, Father Anthony, for the kind introduction. 你们下午好. I know there are many Taiwanese here among us, so I hope I'll be able to reply in Chinese if you have any question, if I'm able to, but I'll use English as a means of communication, especially for my presentation, okay? Right. On your table, there are some microphones, and what I like you to do, perhaps in the course of my presentation, is for you to participate, for you to join me in helping us learn. And as you know very well, I do not have all the knowledge. The knowledge is with all of you. Back in St. Ignatius Church in Singapore, we as parish were told to keep our homilies very short, 8 minutes. And if we pass the 8 minutes mark, the sacristan will turn off the microphone. That was in the old days, but nowadays they don't do that. So I have to keep my presentation short. I have 1.5 hours, but I hope that within this 1.5 hours, I would like to hear more from you rather than from me, okay? The question is, what is pastoral approaches or practical approaches to family ministry in this part of the world? What comes to your mind when we talk about pastoral approaches? We have the mic with you. Those in front, can you just give me 1 or 2 thoughts that you have? What do you think of pastoral approach? What is this about? Father Ronald. Yes. In school, because I teach in school, in the university, I'll make my students answer questions. So I have asked questions like this. I'm a school teacher, so you know, yes. Father, what do you think is this? What comes to your mind when you think of pastoral approaches?
To be a good father to them, to be a good guide for them, and protector for them.
Very good, thank you. John, when you look at pastoral approaches to family ministry, what does it mean for you?
To bring them more harmonized members of the family with each other, and then if they are Catholic family, then we will have to help them to go to a vertical growth of love closer to God.
Very good, excellent. Where else is the mic? For you.
Coming from the keyword, Father, pastor.
Right.
Pastor is to tend,
yes,
to take care,
yes,
to to really see to it that the good of the flock is being given.
Wonderful. What does the lady beside you think? Mary, right? It's good to remember some names, no? You can call upon in class, or especially in this seminar. Yes, Mary. What does pastoral approaches means for you? What comes to your mind immediately?
Take care of them.
Yes.
I do feel sorry because I do something else.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Never mind. Ask your friend beside you. What do you think?
I think it's the church approach to the family, to the human beings, and mainly for the soul.
Very good. Okay. I think all of you are on the spot, right on the spot. What do you do by pastoral approach or approaches to family ministry? There are 3 things I'd like to share with you this afternoon. If anything else you forget today, or maybe the whole workshop or the seminar, just remember 3 things that I'm going to share with you this afternoon. Okay. And what are these 3 important pillars or 3 important facts or structure or framework for family ministry? Back in my studies in the United States when I was working on my PhD, our professors usually drill into us that whenever you talk about practice, practice must be guided by theory. Practice must be guided by theory. And what I'm presenting this afternoon is to present to you a conceptual framework of how you can put the skills that you have into practice, which I think is very important. Without proper theory to inform our practice, we'll be just like the blind leading the blind. We do everything, but at the end of the day, we do nothing. Right? So what I'm sharing with you, 3 basic pillars of foundation to understand practical pastoral approaches to family ministry. And what are these 3 practices? In fact, I wanted you to do a bit of reflection earlier, but this will keep later in the evening. These are the 3 pillars, or what I call conceptual framework to guide our practice. Whatever activities, whatever programs, whatever approaches that you take, you may want to consider these 3 pillars. And I asked myself before presenting this presentation to you, I asked myself, what can I offer you? I believe most of you know a lot more. Some of you even have been working in this area longer than myself. What can I offer you that you do not know? If I talk about programs, if I talk about activities, you are in the field, you know more than me. Right? So what can I offer you that you can bring back to your own country, bring back to your own community to help inform you when you prepare programs, activities for couples and family? So these are the 3 pillars. Anything else you forget is fine. Just remember these 3. The first pillar is about systemic and developmental perspective. When we talk about activities, programs, we need to think in terms of system. System means we are all interconnected, we are all interrelated. Whatever activities that you have for one, you have to consider how can I work with others so that we can gain greater synergy. For example, can ME work with marriage encounter? Work with EE, engage encounter? Can EE work with couples for Christ? Can we work together as a team instead of individual? Because whatever we do is all for the church. It's for God's greater glory. To use an Ignatian term, a Jesuit term, right? So can we work together as a family instead of working individually? Brother doing something, sister doing something, father and mother doing something, which is not. So that's one. The other aspect is developmental. When we think of programs, when we think of activities, we think in terms of the life stages of individual person, as well as couples, as well as family. You know that we go through life stages, from the baby to a young child, to a teenager, to a young adult, and that young adult has to get married, right? And married, young families, families with teenagers, and eventually old age, right? So we think in terms of developmental stages. Therefore, when we have programs, when we have activities for families, couples, we targeted those people in their various stages of life. So that's the first perspective, systemic as well as developmental, where we look at programs. Second aspect is marital and couple spirituality. Pope Francis wrote in Amoris Laetitia, I believe is this the last chapter? Chapter 9 on marital family spirituality. I ask you, what do you understand by marital and family spirituality? If I were to ask you, what do you think marital and family spirituality is all about? What do you think? The family have fun together, have joy together, play together. That is part of spirituality. Okay, good. What else? Pray together. A family who prays together stays together, you know, right? Okay, what else is marital and couple spirituality? Yes, John, Paul. Sharing their faith together. Excellent. With who? The husband sharing with the wife, the children with the parents, and the other way around. Right? Okay. What else? Very good. What else? Mary, you want to say something?
Eat together.
Eating together, having a meal together is important. Right? Why do you think it's important to have a meal together? Research has shown that children who eat together with their parents, especially teenagers, parents are able to understand where the children are coming from, their hopes, their aspirations, their worries. In fact, dinner table is more than just eating, right? It's where you hear one another, the pain, the struggles, the hope of your children. And that's where for your children to understand where you are coming from as parents. So the mealtime is not about food. Though we Asians, we pay a lot of emphasis on having food, good food, right? But more importantly is the family sharing together, the unity of the family. This is one thing that we treasure a lot more here in this part of the world. So eating together is not about food. It's about togetherness. It's about understanding and knowing where the other person is coming from. Whether your brother has an issue or your sister has an issue, or what are their hopes, what are they thinking, how was their day. It's very important. So meal is it. What else about family spirituality, couples? Making yourself available to each other. And what do you mean by that, making yourself available to each other?
When you need help, you extend your hand, helping hand to they are part of your family, just natural. Otherwise, family wouldn't be a family.
Very good. As you listen, the same time also you're thinking, how can I help the other person? How can I be with that person? In fact, sometimes it's not the solution that your children or your spouse is looking for. Sometimes your children, your spouse, what they need is a listening ear. And being a therapist, I know that sometimes listening is more important than just giving solution. Therefore, God created us with and one mouth. It's very important to remember that. And as you know, a lot of our communication is non-verbal. People look at your non-verbal expression, whether you're happy or sad. They look at your face. They look at your body. It's not what you say. And sometimes around the dinner table, you don't have to say much. You just have to look at the other person and you get the message, whether the person is happy or sad for that day. Right? So non-verbal communication is important. And how can we help those who are in need, especially for these days, children, they go through depression also. In the past, we feel that depression is only for the elderly or for them. But these days, you get young children as early as 12 years old, all the way to high school or college. These people may need help. And how do they get help if you do not sit around and listen to them? Their hopes, their aspirations, their worries and concerns. Okay? The other thing about couple or marital and family spirituality is that if you look at the document given by Pope Francis, do you think it's sufficient? Do you think it's sufficient? What is written there? For me, I feel yes, however, we need more, right? Where will this marital and family spirituality come from? You have to come from all of you. So one of the projects that I hope we can start in Singapore or elsewhere is to gather couples like yourself, families like yourself, to share what you mean by couple and family spirituality that is uniquely East Asian. And this is one thing that I hope we can work on in terms of research project, in terms of studies. Because you have the wisdom, you have the lived experience. The article that I've given you, based on my previous research work in the United States, talks a bit about transformative love in the family, transformative love between couples, or between husband and wife. And this is something that we need to hear from couples like you, from families of yours. How can we share our couple or marital and family spirituality with each other so that this will be the foundation to build on whatever programs we have, whatever activities we have for couples and family. Without a strong foundation in spirituality, I don't think we can go further, much further. So we need a strong foundation, and that foundation has to be built on our faith. And what faith are we talking about? It's your lived experience, your lived faith. It's nice to have a theory about spirituality. However, what we need here in this part of the world is that lived experience of yours. What makes a family a family? What makes a marriage a marriage? With its struggles, with its pains, with all its difficulties. I was going around the various groups earlier to listen, and some of you or one of you brought up the struggles of family, of individuals, couples. They may be married for maybe a few years, but they are in trouble. So the question is, how can couple and family spirituality help them to ground their faith, help them to overcome difficulties? And when we talk about difficulties, we talk about where do they go for help? Early on, Bishop Joseph Ha from Hong Kong mentioned that priests, not all of us, are trained in couple family spirituality or in family ministry. Some priests are even afraid to handle marital issues. So the question is, who can we send these people to? I believe that priests, religious, it's good to have a basic training. Beyond that, who can we send these people to? Especially those struggling from marital breakdown, from divorce, from irregular union or situation, children with issues, who can we send them to? Yeah, couples, send them to couples. My suggestion is to send them to you. Because you are better informed and you are better trained than most couples out there. I think the best person to help couples in trouble is you. But you need to be grounded in a spirituality that will help them. And for me, I always say that when we look at couple and family spirituality, we need to consider also what spirituality are we offering them. In my Ignatian tradition, I always look at the Ignatian spirituality. Can couples come together to conduct what we call an examine of consciousness, husband and wife? At the end of a day, or maybe once a month, or once in 2 weeks, can they come together to share their joys, their troubles, their hopes, and so forth? As in an examine. Examine is a Jesuit or Ignatian term we use for sharing with one another their hopes, their aspirations, their difficulties, their struggles, and where is God moving them? Where is God leading them in all these activities in their life, all these troubles in their life, or this joy in their life? Where is God in all? So we can conduct what we call a couple examine. Or we also can conduct what we call a family examine. A family coming together once a week or once a month to talk about their struggles, their joys, what they hope as a family. And the father or the mother can be the main person to facilitate the process. So there are many, many possibilities. The Couples for Christ, you can do it. Right? You have your own way of having couple and family. Can we conduct that? And can we learn from couples what is it to be a couple, a married couple? What is it to be a family? So for me, I think the foundation is important. And that foundation has to be couple and family spirituality. And we can work together as a regional group to understand and better appreciate what is couple and family spirituality. Okay? And that has to be the foundation to build on, higher what we need to do, right? Other activities. The last one, the last pillar or the last structure here is that we need to train people. We need to train individuals, train people like you, provide you with skills, with knowledge, so that you can better serve. And who will be best to serve? I think it's you. If not me, then who? If not you, then who? Right? So you have to be prepared to serve, prepared to learn, prepared to share. And I hope that whatever you learn here in today's seminar, on the last 3 days, you will share with others when you get back to Japan, to Mongolia, back to your parishes in Taiwan, to the Philippines, to where else? Hong Kong, to Hong Kong, right? So you need to learn, and they say to stop learning is to stop living. Who said that? Cardinal John Newman, right? To live is to learn. And if you stop learning, you stop living. It's very practical, right? So Cardinal John Newman said, to live is to learn, and to stop learning is to stop living. Therefore, we need training. Some of the bishop's concern, I know, is that how to train our seminarians, how to give them skills that are pastorally relevant to people whom they encounter in the parish. I think we need to start from there. The older priests, I cannot say much, right? They say you can't teach old dog, new tricks. So older priests, like some of us, know it's difficult to learn new things, so we let them be, right? However, I was surprised when I came here in Tien Educational Center. I did a training called Marital First Responder, and was surprised to see, before the meeting, I told the organizer, please leave the old priest behind, because they'll be grouchy, they'll be sleeping and making noise. Just let them sit behind. But when I went and I started the workshop, I was surprised to see, I think 3 or 4 old priests, they all seated in front, Jesuit, and they were asking very good questions. And they were sharing their life experiences, their way, they work with couples, and I was very surprised. So it's not true that old dogs cannot learn new tricks, right? And the oldest among them was Father, I don't know what, who was 70 plus from the seminary. Father Pika, right? So it's not true. So we are able to learn. And according to research, our brain cells only dies a little when we reach 80 years old. Right? So no excuse for not learning. So that's one. So training, formation is very important. Hopefully, priests, seminarians, religious, to give them the basic foundation of how to work with families, how to work with couples, how to work with individuals. In the seminary in Philippines, in Ateneo, San Jose Seminary in the Philippines, all the seminarians are required to take a course in pastoral counseling. And for those who are interested, to do family counseling also. It's something that is basic and is foundational, which they have to take, which I think is important. So can we help, can we teach our seminarians, our religious, form them to be conscious of the importance of couple and family relationship? That's one. Having said that, I know that not all of us are trained to be counselors or therapists. Not all of us can be that. Therefore, we need to train certain people to be able to handle difficult cases. Sorry, let me rephrase that. We need to train, generally, most people in this ministry to be able to help couples and family. They are what we call the front line, or the first aid, or marital or couple first responder. Then we need to train people who can handle difficult cases, and those will be professional therapists. Hopefully, we can get a therapist. We have both spiritual training as well as clinical training, we call psycho-spiritual counseling. And one of my old professors in the Philippines, Father Tanseko, used to say that any effective therapy or counseling, it has to be psycho-spiritual counseling. It has to be psycho-spiritual counseling. It has to do with both the emotional, psychological, as well as the spiritual. I do therapy in the hospital for children and their parents. most of them in Singapore, they are not Christian or Catholic. However, all of us have certain beliefs system, have certain spirituality. Can we tap into that spirituality of the individual, of the family, to help them resolve their own issue? I think that is very important. Okay, so can we do that? Can we train our priests, our seminarians, our religious, lay people, which is very important. I think you are the frontline people, with basic skills to help couples and family, and train people who have the ability to be professional counselors and therapists to help, especially, I would say, marital cases. And marital cases is very, very complicated. And the longer you have been in this area, you know that there are 101 things you cannot solve. And sometimes you have to ask the couple, ask the husband and wife that what cannot be cured has to be endured. What cannot be cured has to be endured. That means sometimes, according to research, that 70 to 80% of the ongoing marital issues cannot be solved. For example, like what? The personality of the husband or the wife. Can you ask your husband or wife to change his or her personality? No. Definitely cannot, right? So if you cannot change the personality, then how? You need to work around it. So the question is, can we help them to learn how to accept? Instead of asking the other person to change, can you learn how to accept your wife or your husband as who he or she is? And this requires special skill. Not all of us can do it. So therefore, we need to train people in that specific area. Okay, so that's one. So I'm talking about two important aspects of this pillar. That is, one is training formation. And training formation cannot go without the training of therapy, and especially setting up counseling centers, pastoral counseling centers in your diocese. Or in Singapore, we train lay counselors or para counselors so that they can go into parishes to provide free counseling service to whoever that is living around the parish, so that they can give counseling, immediate counseling if they need. If it's a difficult case, they can refer to the big counseling center, the bigger counseling center, or main counseling center in the archdiocese. So can we have that? Is it possible to have those parish-based counseling centers with the support of the archdiocese, with the support of the priests, with trained para-counselors, or what you call counseling associate, lay counselors? I think Hong Kong, they have that to some extent, right? Yeah. And we have done that in countries like East Malaysia. We have gone there to train, and they started. We have gone to Vietnam, Myanmar to provide those training in the past. When I was then in charge of Family Life Society, we went around to train lay counselors. Okay. So these are the three important, I would say, pillars if you are thinking of activities, thinking of reaching out to individuals, couples, and family in our family ministry. Whatever else you forget is fine. If you can't remember, that means they are not important, right? You only remember, if you can, these three aspects. Before I go on, any questions, clarifications, or comments based on these three? Systemic, developmental approach or perspective, couple family spirituality, marital and family spirituality as the other pillar, and the last one, training and therapeutic approach to helping couples, families in trouble, especially this area. Yes, Sister Mary, the microphone, yes.
My question is, can you recommend higher institutions where these people should go for the training? Because, as we know, our society is already infected perhaps by the secularist, humanist mentality. So what are good institutions we can recommend?
You are referring to what?
Or higher level.
What sort of training are you looking at?
Well, both the local level and then the more professional level.
Okay. Two areas, I'm taking examples from Singapore. The first level will be the parish-based. If not the parish, then the archdiocesan. That means the archdiocesan will have to take up, especially the family commission. Can we train and form individuals? In the archdiocese, we have also a counseling center. And counseling centers, there are professional counselors there. Can the professional counselors, not all of them are teachers, but can some of them reach out to train lay counselors at that level? I would say the basic level. After which I would say I'm looking at universities. I believe in your place, in your countries, you have good Catholic universities. Right? Can they go from there, let's say if you have a certificate or diploma from the Archdiocese, can they go and do a first degree or a master's degree? In Singapore, since I hate the Masters of Counseling program and family therapy in the university, I'm encouraging, and some of them have done that. Those with diploma, they have moved on to take up the master's program in our university. So I would say, yes, it's important. SAFAM, Center for Family Ministry over in Philippines, they have a good training program for couple and family work. That's one. And that's a good place. And I believe here in Furen University, I think there are possibilities also.
You need the time because everybody, if they are working, it's difficult. But they have a good training for 1.5 years. Basic communication or something about therapy, something.
In Singapore, we try to open up our programs to overseas students, and this will take maybe 1 or 2 years. The program that I'm heading, and we just came out with couple and family therapy master's program. Maybe 1 or 2 years they open up to foreigners. At present, it's just for local. So yes, the Archdiocese, if possible, to take up the foundational training, and then universities. The other thing about systemic approach or systemic perspective is we need to work with universities. And as here, I believe in Hong Kong or here in Taiwan, you have good Catholic universities, Furen. Can you work with Furen to look at programs, to design programs? Can you work with Furen University to look at couple family spirituality? But these are places where they do research, they do studies, and it's important to tap into those institutions of higher education. I think it's mentioned also in the Synod of Bishops on Family. Can we link ourselves up with universities, with centers that looks into research? Where do we get our training from, most of us? If not from each other, can we go and look at some institutions of higher learning that has a Christian or Catholic approach? Can we learn from them? John Paul Institute, for example, right, in Australia or elsewhere. So can we think in terms of linking ourselves with institutions of higher learning for research, for information? In the States, there are lots of possibilities in the United States. And we have to keep ourselves abreast with the latest findings or research on couple relationship. For example, John Gottman, he did a lot of work over the last 30 years, Professor John Gottman in Seattle in the United States. They talk about how can we work with couples, understand couples, so that we can better serve them. Right? So can we do that in terms of understanding what's latest in terms of relationship between husband and wife, the family? We need to learn from universities, institution of higher learning. Father, thank you. I hope that I answer your question, sister. Yeah. 你可以, yeah.
In Taipei Diocese, I would say since 5 years ago, so the diocese priest Zorong and we established a kind of consulting or counseling center. We train the volunteer to give some kind of counseling, like accompanying people through telephone. So since 5 years ago, so we invite many counselors, also has a specialty to give the marriage and family counseling course from the basic step by step. So after that, once a month, there were one day training course, kick their capacity, and also our community group, how to say, the supervision. So, and also in the individual to let the volunteer know how to accompany the people who are in suffering or who are in need. So we invite the very good counselor or teacher. They are specialty, so they are professional. So I think we already have 3 times. Recently, we recruit the maybe 对分，我们这个有几个第3次的，有几个那个志工训练的8个嘛哦 ，Yeah. So the 对分 also the one of the volunteer. Would you like to say something about our 协谈中心的训练？你可以讲中文。
的训练。其实我们主要的目标就是学习到，其实来电当中，其实他并不是期待你要求要解决问题，其实主要就是倾听。那这个过程当中，倾听是很重要的。那我们要学习的是要中间怎么去听，听讲得很清楚，但是听有很多的过程，要怎么听，还有包括怎么跟他的对话。那这当中可能对我们不仅对他们，或者对我们志工的收获，其实是我们学习到，不管在我们对自己或在我们自己家庭里面，一定会学习到这一方面的收获。
好，谢谢你。The other thing about counseling-based parishes.
The training itself, it's important to learn how to listen to couples' problems. Listening is so important for the training and the practical counseling itself.
Thank you. One of the things that we learn from training lay counselors for the parishes is that we need to give them supervision, clinical supervision, because if not, it will be like the blind leading the blind, and both of them will fall into a hole, right? So because these are new counselors without much skill, we need to provide supervision, and the challenge sometimes is to get the right supervision for these lay counselors. All right, good, thank you. One more or 2 more questions based on what I've just presented. Question, comments, or remark? Yes, Wendy.
Can you say a little bit more about the systemic aspect of perspective from within the family as well?
I teach a course in couple and family spirituality, and it takes 32 hours to explain what systemic family relationship is all about. But to put in a nutshell, we need to bear in mind that there are 2 things with regards to human relationship. Whether you like it or not in the family, whatever the father or mother, whatever the parents do, influence and affect the children. Even the silent war between husband and wife is being picked up by the children. And this will, in a way, I think most of the time is, I see couples, I see children. The children are referred for therapy, but the actual issue is with the parents, right? So even though the child, you say, doesn't know anything, but you are surprised. Even as young as, I would say, 7, 8, or even younger, they know what is happening in the family. So if there's a fight, it's a war, argument between husband and wife, it will affect the children. That's what I mean by systemic. Spoken or unspoken, the children pick up what is happening in the family. So that's number 1. The other thing about systemic approach in looking at family is that if there's a change in one part of the system, I think the bishop also mentioned earlier, there will be a change in other parts of the system. If the father were to step up in his role as a father, then relationship with the mother and with the children will definitely be much better. In many of our families, the father is usually not involved. The mother, she does everything. And sometimes to an extent that the children gets frustrated. Mom is telling this child what to do, that what to do. And they get very angry and frustrated towards the mother. The mother becomes like the bad person in the house. Right? The rest, our father is very good because the father, everything is yes. Everything is okay. Whatever the mother does, in terms of discipline, will be undone by the father. So it's not helpful for the children. And children are very smart. They play one parent against another parents to get what they want. Mommy say yes, daddy say no, I better go to mommy. Or the other way around, right? So what happens if the children or the child does things that the parents do not want them to do? There will be conflict between husband and wife. Parenting, they call that different parenting style, but it's more than that. It's the dynamics. So if I can help the father or mother, hopefully I can help the child. And in my work, usually I'll try to help the parents so as to help the children or the child involved. I think that's what I meant by being systemic.
So you mean that the family as a system?
Yes.
Okay.
The family as a system.
So inside the system, there's something.
There's a dynamics within the system, just like all of us here. There are dynamics between and among us. The way I listen to your question, the way I respond, the way I look at you, there's a certain dynamics, consciously or unconsciously. So we have to be able to understand those dynamics.
Mr. Chow, we have a question. Since you have said, introduced it, we have already aroused the attention of FABC that we're here coming from 6 countries. Would you be expecting, to give at least a kind of a unified language for all these FABC members, for not necessarily the higher level of training, but at least the diploma level or whatever, the basic 30 hours training, whatever, so that everybody, when we get home, oh, I'm greedy. Huh? I'm asking actually on your behalf, out of my generosity anyway, to have some things go back, not only this, but another continuation of training, at least for 15 hours, if you would like to give a 50% discount, so that we can do something ongoing and ongoing for our Lord then. This is just a request.
You need to ask His Lordship, Bishop John, or as they say, Madam Wendy or Miss Wendy, right? So I think they have to decide. But the thing is that as a FABC group, you can learn from each other. And that's what I'm going to propose later, right? How can we work together as a group? And how can we think together as a group using these 3 pillars as the foundation to build on whatever activities or whatever plans we have or implementation with regards to family ministry. That is you can look here, marital family spirituality as the foundation or something that permeates all that we do, systemic and developmental perspective in looking at our programs, targeted programs, as well as training, formation, and therapy that we can help those, especially in crisis, marital and family crisis. All right, okay. So can I go on a bit more to elaborate? Yes, Father.
We've been talking about, yeah, thank you. We've been talking about the counseling, training, and everything. But, well, I'm looking back in the parish where I'm working. Most couples, especially men, would not even accept that something is wrong with them. They are okay. And if ever something is wrong, that is because of you, or it is you, not me. How can we encourage, in fact, these people to enter into that, counseling, or to correct them at least, to guide them?
Very practical question, because this is the issue that we face every time when we try to help couples. The wife will be the one coming to seek help, but the husband thinks everything is okay. If you change my wife, everything will be fine, right? If she's less demanding, if she doesn't, if she goes less nagging, if she's kinder to the children, everything will be fine, right? But it's not true, because it takes 2 to clap. Tango, it takes 2 to clap, to tango. So what I do usually in therapy is that I will invite the husband. You need to invite the husband, that's for sure. And how to invite the husband if the husband is not willing to come? If the husband always feels that he's the one to be blamed, or if I come, the therapy will tell me that I'm the wrong. Usually what I do for children is that please invite your parents, because as parents, you will help me to understand the problem better, and help me to help cure your children or treat your children. So it's the same in marital relationship. I always tell the wife, please invite your husband to see me, to help me help you who is having the problem. Right? So he's not the problem, okay. I invite him to come to help me solve the problem. So you're inviting him as someone, as a resource, not someone to be blamed. And he will be more willing to come in that situation. Right? Okay, there are many ways in which we can invite, but this will have to go into another training session. Right? So it's very important. If a person feels blame, he or she will not come for therapy or for consultation. So you have to encourage them, tell them you are part of the solution. If they are not part of the problem, you are part of the solution. Okay, good. All right, yes. How much time do we have? 1 hour, oh, good, oh, wonderful.
Good afternoon, Father. Will this approach be applicable as well to situations wherein one or the other parent is an absentee parent, especially in the situation nowadays that the diaspora among the many nations here in East Asia, wherein you see the phenomenon of
Which of these pillars are you talking about? Which of these?
especially the marital and family spirituality,
Okay, yes.
or maybe all of them put together.
Okay.
Will this be applicable
Okay.
to the same situation?
What I'm providing you here is a conceptual framework. As you know, a theory works only if you put into application, it helps you. If you use this tree and it doesn't help you in your situation, that means it's not a good concept, it's not a good framework. And that is the test of a good framework. So what I'm suggesting is consider this when you're planning your programs, preparing your activities or training. What, sorry, your name? Raymond is saying is very specific. A lot of parents are absent parents, especially fathers, let's say in China, or mothers also in China, or in Philippines where you have lots of them working overseas. How can we help families like that? Then, of course, we have to come and think about what is marital spirituality for them, what is developmental, what is formation for them. You can only do so much. You can only do so much. So you have to target your time, your energy and effort to areas in which you can be effective and be helpful. What about areas in which there's a need and there's no resources? Then, of course, we have to think as a group. You have to think as a group how best to handle that particular situation, keeping in mind these three pillars. So I will say these are what I call pillars or foundation or framework for you to help you to think. If I have a program, should I consider this three? And how should I consider this three? So it is a big issue. It's not only for us to consider the issue of migration, right? Of workers, migrant workers. It is a big issue. This is something that perhaps the FABC, migrant workers, they have to take up on that. What we are looking at is families in our local context, can we help them? You're looking at this concept, right? So there are different issues in which some of which can be addressed, others is not within our ability to address. Yeah. And maybe some other FABC secretariat have to look into that. But can we work with them? Because these are issues regards to family life, right? If father or mother goes out to work, what happened to children? Then the question is, are there other important person in the child's life or the children's life that we can look into? For example, grandparents, auntie, uncles. Can we form them? Can we help them? Can we educate them to help the children who are left behind? And this is very important. Right? Okay. Other questions before I move on? I think I've given you more or less 50% of what I have to say. So the other 50%, I'll go slightly into more details. Is it okay? Right? And you can ask me as you go along. And think of questions, write down. I can try to answer. Okay. I think I have shared enough with regards to systemic and developmental perspective. Basically, I'm looking at how can we work together and not in isolation, especially in parishes. You know parishes, or in parish, the ME does, the lectors do not know what the wardens are doing or the catechism teachers are doing. Can we work together, especially for family groups? If you're the family group or responsible for it, can you be able to connect with other groups that are involved in other activities concerning couples, concerning family, and not work in isolation? Okay? Because there are greater synergy, greater energy by learning from one another, by supporting one another. You don't have to copy the notes because all these slides will be given to you. Right? You just listen, and if you have a question, you ask. So this is one. Therefore, we need to take what we call a systemic approach, especially in our parish. Try to work with others in your parish, other organizations in your parish. And for the archdiocese or diocese, to work with the commissions or different organizations or agencies within the Catholic Church, within your diocese. So this is something that you may want to consider. The other thing I've mentioned is, can we galvanize, can we invite professors, therapists, psychologists in your diocese to help you plan, for example, a training program? Can we get universities, Catholic universities in your country to work with you as a family commission So do not work individually because you do not have all the answers. Let's say in Tokyo, I think the university that I know is the Sophia University. Can we get people from there to help you to work in some programs? For example, programs with young couples. Can we work towards that? Because they have the knowledge, the expertise. You do not have all. Can we work with them, right? So don't work in isolation, work with others. Then the other one I have mentioned is, when we have programs, can we target it at the developmental life stages of the family, of the couple, so that we don't have programs that duplicates. For example, programs that, there'll be 3 or 4 youth programs. Can we pull all the youth programs to one? Can we pull the family programs to one? Can we work with each other? Looking at the developmental stages. In Singapore, we try to look at caring, health, caregivers for those who are elderly. Can we have groups of caregivers to support them? Because the caregivers are the one giving the care to the elderly. Can we get these people together to give them the support they need? So you think in terms of the developmental stages, from catechism classes to choice program, to couple empowerment program in Singapore, or Couple for Christ, to elderly program, ME and EE and so forth, right? Can we look at targeted programs based on developmental stages of the individual, of the couple, and family? Because couple, individual, families, they go through different stages. And most of us here, I think, you'll be probably with children who are school going. Others maybe you have grandchildren or adult child, right? So you look at how can we help in the stages, okay? This was also brought up by Cardinal Lorenzo. Cardinal Lorenzo asked the Family Commission in the United States to look into what are they doing based on Pope Francis's book. What are some of the implementation? And it came out. And they focus on 3 important areas according to Cardinal Lorenzo. It says that the passage of time is necessary for, in preparation for marriage. The education of children is also another important area. And the last one is elderly, those who are moving towards, I think, next life, those who are mourning a death in the family. So we are looking at, they are also looking at developmental stages in life. So can we look at that in our programs? Okay. This is chapter 6. Chapter 6 of Amoris Laetitia. And if you notice chapter 6, they are basically looking at family life cycle over here. The first topic they look at will be proclaiming the gospel to family today. And that is basically looking at children and adolescents. The second stage they are looking at will be young adult. The third one, which is preparation for marriage, preparation for celebration, young adults, and formation of new family. So the approach they have taken is very developmental, from one stage of life to another, right? You can see here. First year of marriage, how can we support young couples? Then resources, some of the resources for young couples, like the Couple for Christ, Couple Empowerment Program, and other programs for young people. We need to look into that. Then, of course, couples who are in crisis, family in crisis, okay, older couples, and eventually, deaf, elderly, and deaf, right? So you think in terms of the developmental stages of a person's life, of a couple's life, of a family life. So that is the approach, I would say, if you're looking at pastoral ministry. Okay, I think I've spoken enough for couple and family spirituality, or marital and family spirituality. That is, we have to come out on our own what is unique about couple or marital spirituality and family spirituality. And you are the one to provide us with the spirituality. It's not the priest or the bishop or the theologians. As you know, most of us, all of us, yes, we come from families, but we are not married. You are married, you know the experience, and you are the one to provide us with the spirituality. We can provide you with the theological, how to theologize, but you are the one to provide us with the lived experience, which is important. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, working in close collaboration with married couples and families, because you hold the key to our understanding of what is couple and family spirituality all about. Okay, you hold the key, and we need to tap your expertise your experience. Okay. Training and formation, as well as therapy. You know, in the chapter, was it chapters on irregular marriage? That's chapter number 8, chapter 8 of Amoris Laetitia. There are questions, there are issues in which most of us cannot answer because we are not trained, right? We need, of course, a canon lawyer to address some of these issues. However, we need therapists to heal the wounds. And one thing I learned about therapy is that as a therapist, I do not heal the wound. As a therapist, I enable husband and wife to heal their own wounds. I make it possible for father and mother to heal the wounds of their children and the other way around. I facilitate. I provide a safe place whereby husband and wife can talk, can heal each other's wound. And that is a skill that we have to learn for professional counselors, therapists. And this is what I think is important in the church. You know, in irregular marriages, in divorce, in crisis in the family, a lot of wounds are being created. Husband hurt the wife hurt the husband through what we say and what we do. Children, same also with their parents. And they are the one to heal each other's wounds. They are the best person to do that, not we. As a therapist, as individuals, you provide a safe place for them to do the healing. You've read the book, some of you have read the book called The Wounded Healer by Henry Nouwen, right? We are all wounded in some ways. We have our own wounds. If one of you or any of you tell us that no, you have no wounds, no emotional wounds, I will not believe, right? So all of us, we have wounds. The question is, with this wound, can we help the others also to heal their wounds? Because we ourselves, we experience that wound. So we need to do that. And how best to do it? I think in a safe environment like a counseling center. Therefore, I hope that diocese, archdiocese, we have a place whereby Christian couples, Catholic couples can go there to get their wounds healed by a trained professional who is rooted in both psycho-spiritual counseling. Right. Okay, so I'll encourage, if you do not have a counseling center in your diocese, to set up one. Better still, if you have lay counselors, to be in the various parishes. You don't need, Singapore we have 32 parishes, but we don't need 32 parishes to have counseling centers. We have 4 districts. That one district may have about 5 or 6 parishes. Can one of those parishes be the center whereby those who need help can come to seek the help they need? And if they need more help or professional help, refer them to the main counseling center of the archdiocese. We train people to help. Keeping in mind that when we look at families, we look at couples, we look at individuals, we need to keep in mind that it's not that individuals and family have resources. All of us here, we have resources. The question is how to draw those resources. Whenever a family is in crisis, their possibility of helping themselves narrows, right? So the question is, in times of crisis, can we help the family to identify what are the resources they have and where to look for resources to help themselves? So families have resources, individuals have resources. If I were to ask Father, I can't remember, Father Thomas, yeah, Father Thomas, what are some of the resources you have as an individual? What would that be? I can say as a priest, yes, yeah.
Okay.
I know I'm putting him on the spot. What are the resources do you think you have?
I was sharing with the rest of the members of my small group.
Yes.
That we often talk about teen ministry, marriage preparation and accompanying families. This is where that type of approach is most needed now.
Yes.
Not simply because many priests are just busy with different things and cannot find adequate time to accompany couples in need and things like that. Well, that is true, but why team ministry is necessary is not simply because priests are busy. Priests alone cannot provide the kind of the preparation that would-be married couples really need to live happy, meaningful married life, that for us to be able to provide that type of ministry, clergy as well as laity, they both have to be educated to understand why it is so important to provide that type of approach.
Thank you, Father Thomas. So what Father Thomas, I think, in fact, is telling us that individually, I do not have all the resources. So we need to work together as a team. And sometimes you have the resources, or you have the knowledge as well as expertise as compared to the priest. Okay, we may be trained in theology or in philosophy, in some pastoral ministry, but we're not trained as you to provide help for married couples, for couples who are in need. You are the one. So can we work together? So here, when we talk about individual resources, family resources, it's the same. If you always feel that the person is lacking of something, that person will not be of help to himself or others. We have to take what we call a strength-based perspective. We believe that you are able to help yourself. We believe that families are able to help themselves, provided you give them the means to do that. You give them the tool to do that, to help themselves. And this is what we do, part of it in therapy. Right? We need to help them identify their strengths, more so than not only the weakness, and help families to do that. When we are growing up, what did your parents tell you most of the time? They always tell us what we are not good at, right? 这个做得不好，那个做得不好啊，你应该做这个。They never tell us what we are good at. 我们的父母亲没有告诉我们，我们做的什么好，怎么样做得好。通常是告诉我们，你做的这个不好，做个那个不好。It's the same. In therapy, we have to educate. A lot of what we do in therapy is to educate the individual, educate the family about what they can do for themselves, what they can do for each other. And we need to keep that in mind when we look at ministries, we look at programs. Tap into the resources, tap into the strength of the individual. You cannot ask a person to build on the weaknesses. You only can ask the person to build on his or her strength to be better. And this is what we do in therapy. Focus on the strength, acknowledging the weaknesses. And this is very important. Right. Okay, good. I have 35 minutes. I can go on for another 3 hours, but 35 minutes is not enough. Okay. So this is a reminder again. We need to look at these 3 basic structure or framework when we look at family ministry in our own context, right? Further thoughts on family ministry, on what we can do within our own context. First is, as I mentioned earlier, we need to look at resources individually as a family. We need to do that as a diocese also, and as your own organization. What can you do in your organization? What have you done in your organization? In your, let's say, for example, in your family commission, in your family and couple ministry. What are some of the strengths you have? You need to make an assessment. Just like every year we assess what needs, in our house, what needs to be cleaned every year. During Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year, we have to find out what needs to be cleaned, right? We know, then we go about doing it. The same also, what are some of our strengths as an organization and as a commission or as a agency. So think in terms of that. Have an assessment, go back, talk about it. Look at what other dioceses are doing in their family ministry. We are from 6 countries or slightly less than that. What works for your family ministry? Can we learn from each other? I think in organization, they call that best practices, right? What works in your organization may be helpful in my organization or my diocese. Can I learn from you? Can Kaohsiung learn from the Diocese of Taipei, or Taipei learn from the Diocese of Kaohsiung with regards to family ministry? What is working for you in your ministry? Can we learn from Japan? Can we learn from Hong Kong? Can we learn from each other? Right? Because what you do that is effective will in fact help us. So can we learn from each other? Right? The other thing about this is a research that I did some time ago. It's called success case method. If your organization, let's say for example, is conducting EE that is very successful, engage encounter, can I learn what is it in your organization, in your EE, that I can learn from? What are some of the things that is working in your organization? What do you do in your EE that is more successful than my EE? Can I learn from you? Is it because you train your presenters well enough? Is it because those who are coming, you screen the participants, you give them additional follow-up training or follow-up formation? Is there something I can learn from you? And this is a research that we do where we call success case method. We study the worst case and the best case. And what can we learn from each of these cases, individuals or organization? And can we replicate that in my own organization? Okay, so this is something to think about. And this is done by Professor Robert Birkenhoff. And he has a book on that also. Right? So learning the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. And can I learn from these two, the best and the worst? All right. The other thing is of challenge is, as you know, we are all busy people. And all of you have jobs, you have a family to take care of. How can we attract people who are passionate about couple and family ministry? And if I were to ask around, why are you here today? What would your answer be? If I ask Paul, why are you here today? He says, Bishop John Ha sent me, right? But if I were to ask others who are missionaries, for example, to Mongolia, why are you here today? Some of you may say, because it's my mission in life, right? Because this is my calling in life as a laity. That's why I'm here today. Some of you may say, I'm passionate about helping families because I myself come from a good family. And I have learned much from my own family, and I hope that others may be able also to experience that. That's why I'm here. So there are many reasons why you're here. But the important thing to keep in mind is, can we attract, invite, and motivate individuals within our community into this family life ministry? Knowing that there are many challenges the individual faces, right? Family commitments, work, social, and so forth. How can they contribute to the family ministry in which you are going to, in which you are in or going to set up? And it's not easy. If I can get few good men or women, I think that's enough. You know the movies, right? A Few Good Men, Tom Cruise, and I don't know who else, right? If I can get few good men and women to be in the ministry, 5 of them, I think it's enough. We need 12 apostles to change the world, right? If I can get 12 good men and women, I think I can change the world. St. Ignatius says, if I can get 1 or 2, I think it's enough. Right? So can we do that? Identify, invite, motivate people who are passionate about family ministry with the right intention, with the right motivation to be involved. They say one of the things about therapy is that sometimes therapy is not because of what you do as a therapist. It's because how passionate you are to help the other person. Your passion, your interest, in fact, will rub on your people who come to see you. Right? So if you're passionate about what you do, it will kind of influence others also to be interested. So do you have that passion? And why are you here? What's the motivation? It's important. Right? Okay. So I think it's important to identify and invite individuals to form such a core group for the family ministry. So if you can invite another person into that ministry, in your ministry, I think it's great. Just need a few good men and women. You don't need too many. Earlier on I mentioned, we need to target our family ministries and activities based on the different life stages, developmental stages, so that our time, we have limited time, resources, energy. We cannot care for everybody, right? But we can target our programs to the most needy. For example, in some places, it's couple relationship, breakdowns in marriages. Can we put our strength and energy into that? And can we help educate, form them? As I say, therapy is firefighting. A lot of work has to be done upstream. There is education, psychosocial education. Can we do more of that instead of just setting up counseling centers, instead of having more therapies? Can we do a bit more in educating young couples before they get married, right after they get married? Can we support them? A lot has to do with a lot to do with preparing couples, supporting them, encouraging them when they're early on in their marriage. So when they meet a crisis, when they experience a difficulty, then that's where they put into use what they have learned previously. Right? So do not always think of helping them in terms of therapy. think in terms also of helping them when they are not having any problems early on in life. And they say that family education, couple relation, sexuality have to begin as early as high school or even younger. And some of you may know this program for children called Catechism of the Good Shepherd. And they're teaching children from very young about faith, about their body, about what they believe in. Can we start somewhere there as early as possible? And who should start with? Parents. We cannot be catechists for the children. We need parents to be the first catechists. Can we form parents for that? Can we train parents for that? Can we support parents for that? So we need to look at the developmental stages of a family life. And can we target our activities based on that? Okay. Some of us may need to revisit some of the programs that you have, EE, MPC, Couple for Christ, Engage Encounter, and so forth. Can we introduce some of the ideas, some of the concept of the book by Pope Francis, Amoris Laetitia, in those that you are doing? Because I believe some of us have programs that have existed more than 50 years, like ME, right? 40 years. It was started by, I think, a Jesuit long time ago or who, right? But time has changed. Relationship, understanding of relationship, couple relationship, family has evolved. So can we look at what the programs that we have that needs to be revised? Not asking you to change everything, but to revise them so as to address the present issues of relationship of the society, of couples. We need to do that. Who will be best to do it? You, who are practicing, introducing and training people in that area, EE, ME, MPC, including Couple for Empowerment Program. Can we do that? All right. The other thing, one of the participants are saying is that most young people do not have time. They're always busy earning a living, busy career and so forth. And asking them to come for weekday or weekends, evening classes or training is not possible. Can we tap into the latest technology that we have, what we call web seminar? And I think in the States, they are trying to look at what are some of these web seminars that can be available to young couples, to individuals, because it's difficult to get them to come together as a group. Can they do it on their own, at their own leisure, at their own time, at their own convenience? So can we develop web seminars that can be shared among ourselves? If needed, translated to different languages. Can we do that? Right. So this is something that I think is of help, especially with today's technology. Can we use our cell phone, our apps in the cell phone to help educate our young couples, our young men, our women, our children? Because they're always on the web, always on the handphone. As you know, you go to a restaurant, who are those who are talking? Those are lovers. Those are not talking, they're married couples, right? And children, what do? They look at their handphone while their parents are eating. So can we tap into technology in which they are familiar to help get our message across? And I think web seminar is one of the big areas in which we can look into. And individual countries, if we want to consider, what are some of the basic education in couple, family, spirituality, in couple and family work that can be taught through web seminar? Okay? And can we share what we have developed with other countries, with other family commissions? Okay. This is a report that, that came out last year, and what I have said, most of it are in there, and some of which I've got it from there also. It's the report commissioned by our Cardinal Lorenzo for the, to the United States Family Commissions. So they asked the cardinals there, can you look into what they are doing with regards to Pope Francis's book? And this is what they came up with. You can go into the website. This is slow and careful implementation. Study the context of Amoris Laetitia, how to disseminate the information. Can it go through parishes? Can it go through Catholic news you have in your own country? Can it go through bulletins in the parish? Can you help to educate the parishioners bit by bit about what is the book all about? What's the beauty of the book? What are the strengths of the book? How can we help couples? All right? So slow and careful implementation, communication with Catholic faithful, education and formation of clergy. This is what are some of the suggestions or the implementations that the cardinals and the bishops of the various family commissions in the United States is talking about. Can we use those? All right? implementation of diocesan office, can the diocese office talk to each other about how can we help couples and family? How can we support them, encourage families? Can we do that? Because sometimes our diocesan officers, we are not talking to each other. The right hand does not know what is the left hand doing, right? So can we look into that? Special events, for example, fundraising in your parish, in your archdiocese, can we introduce some of the concept or some of the important facts, significant findings of the book into these activities, right? To get people interested, to get people to better appreciate what the book is all about, Amoris Laetitia. Reevaluate and strengthen the existing programs they have, EE, MPC, Couples for Christ, and so on and so forth. Right? Okay. Renew models of ministry. Yesterday, Cardinal Lorenzo, or the day before, mentioned that it's not the teachings of the church that has to change. What has to change will be the pastoral approaches. And the thing is that we cannot use the same pastoral approaches that we have been using if you want to look at how to move forward. We need to think differently and to act differently. Thinking and acting is one thing, but implementation is a challenge. And I know in some companies and some organizations, the implementation is the most difficult. You have the money, you have the will, but nobody to implement. So then how, right? So you can go into the website and you can look into the details of the findings from the United States Family Commission, right? Okay, what is in Singapore? What do we have in Singapore that may be of help to you? Before I go into that, any questions, clarification, or comments based on what I have just said? Any thoughts or reaction? Any question you may have before I move on to this part? Okay, if not, then I move on. If you have any question, just raise your hand. I will stop and try to answer your question. If not, yes, Father.
I'm interested about your psycho-spirituality. Can you introduce how you implement this spirituality? How do you work?
Psycho-spiritual.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, it's a combination of two words, psychology and spirituality. I think if a person were to, I think in terms of counseling purposes, if a person is to be a psycho-spiritual counselor, I think that person is trained in both spirituality or theological training, as well as in the skills as a counselor or therapist. Right? So you have to be able to combine both. And I think the integration has to be done by the individual, as well as, if possible, a training session to help them think in terms of, for example, when I help couples in trouble or help an individual, I will ask them, do you believe in anything? Do you believe in a God? It can be a God of Buddhists, they have no God. Okay, it may be a Hindu, or it may be a Christian, it may be a Buddhist. But I always ask them, do you believe in something? And it's important because what they believe in can be tapped to help them resolve or address the issue. There's always no AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, there's always a higher being. And sometimes we need the higher being to help us resolve our problem, to help the couples resolve their problem. And that is where I identify, I ask them, identify, and help them with that. And this is what I call drawing from their own resources. Because all of us have resources to help ourselves and help each other. The question is how to identify that, how to draw that out. And it's the task of you, maybe as a counselor, or you as a family minister or family worker, to do that, right? Okay. Okay, let's, I think I've shared a bit about this earlier, about practical approaches within the Singapore context. 10 years ago, when I was in the Family Life Society, we started training for lay counselors. And I mentioned earlier, we train them. It's a series of six parts to the training over a period of 3 years. We train them in individual counseling skills. We gave them practical. They need to do practicum or practice. Then they'll be trained in couple counseling, a practice. Train them in family counseling, practice. At the end of the 3 years part-time, they would get a certificate or diploma from CFAM, Center for Family Ministry in the Philippines. And they were sent within the 3 years in parishes to practice and to help couples and individuals and families and so forth. And I think it's important for me, I feel that if in a country whereby it's difficult to go to a professional counselor, where people see counseling as a stigma, that means it's no good to see a therapist or counselor because of their face, can they go to someone like you, who is a lay person, who can help you at least for the initial problem? Then if it's a very complicated problem, refer them to professional. And as mentioned, most people need to be listened to. They need a listening ear more than anything. And sometimes after talking to the counseling associate or lay counselor, they feel much better. The ability to talk about, or as we call ventilate, helps the individual. Sometimes you don't have to give solution. So can we have those kind of individuals, frontline people, to help people in need? And these are usually what we call people that you know in your community. Can we give them the basic skills so that they can help others in the community? Okay, so that's one. The other thing that is very important we found is that we need to have a team of trainers, good trainers to train these lay counselors or counseling associate. And these are people who have either a master's or usually a master's will be able to train others, those who have experience to train others. So we need to form that core team, identify the core team. And in my group previously, we had a team making up of social worker, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, family therapists. And it's important to have such group, professional group, so that you are not only the one doing the training. The training is done by a group. So you don't feel so stretched also because you are working people, you are working professionals, right? Okay. In our center in Singapore, Kingsmead Center for Ignition Spirituality, that's the website. We provide retreats for couples. We provide programs based on the developmental stages of the individual and of the family. So we targeted our programs at the groups, different stages of their life. All right? So we have programs that if you go into our website, you can find out a bit more. So can counseling centers, can spirituality centers, it's unique because in Singapore, it's not only we have a counseling center, it's not only we have a spirituality center, we also have a counseling center together. In most places, it's only spirituality center or retreat house. But here in Singapore, we have a combination of both, spirituality as well as counseling, whereby some people may need counseling, others may need spiritual direction. So can you think along that line, if you have the resources? Training, formation, when I go back, the second part of the year, we'll have a series of talks for couples based on the book Amoris Laetitia. Can you do that in your own community, in your own diocese? You have one or two individuals who know the book well, and to be able to share the key points in the book. So I'm going to have 3 sessions maybe over 2 or 3 months to look at getting couples to talk about it. It's not only sharing with them, but also listening to them about their experience of reading the book, their experience of their own marital relationship. Right? So can we hold that? Couple empowerment program, I think they have gone to Hong Kong to provide those training. This is a group set up, I think, more than 10 years ago, right? To help young couples from the first to 8 years of marriage. I think early on, sorry, your name? Jimba mentioned that in Japan, especially in this prefecture, there are nothing for young couples after they get married, right, for the last 15 years. Can we have programs for younger couples, not couples in EE, married for more than 10 years, but young couples within the first 5 years, within the first 8 years of marriage? And they have the husband and wife team, they have come out with a very good program to help young couples, especially relationship, with in-laws, relationship with one another, communication skills, and so forth and so forth. And if you go into their website, there are details of it, right? The husband and wife team. And they look into some of the latest encyclical, right, to help inform their teaching and their training. And they work together with other young couples or not so young couples to form that team. Other formations in family ministry that can be taken up by the Archdiocese. you need a resource person. So if you have a good resource person, can they help the parishes? Can they help the Archdiocese Family Commission to motivate, to guide, to support? Right. Couple mentoring program, I think this is one thing that is very important. It originated in Australia. I believe some of your dioceses, you have that couple mentoring, older couple helping, mentoring, journeying the younger ones. I think this is one of the ways to go forward. Because you, as an older couple, you have your experience of handling crises, of handling difficulties in your own married life. Can you share that? Can you journey with younger couples? In situation whereby you have one mature couple, one, say, mentoring couple, you can have 3 or 4 couples with you to journey with you, and they can come to you or you can go to them on a monthly basis. Right? Can we do that in our parishes, in our archdiocese? And the other thing is network with universities and counseling centers, because they have the knowledge, the know-how, expertise. Can we link up, network with them, tap into their resources, invite them? And I believe in Taiwan here, you have a number of Catholics who are in higher education as therapists and so forth, like earlier on, Professor Krang, who came earlier, right? So it's important to tap into their resources, their expertise. Okay, question first. Question, how much time do I left? 10 minutes, good. I'm going to finish soon. Any questions, clarification, comments? Based on what I have shared earlier. Any thoughts? Yeah, Paul.
Can I have your comments on just what you say? Sometimes the families or the couples, they have the wound need to be healed, and in the Catholic practice, there's also some ways to heal the wounds, such as receive the sacrament, reconciliation, and Eucharistic adoration. There's another way to receive the grace of Lord for healing. How do you have any comments how these practices integrate with in your practice?
I would say use whatever you know within your abilities or within your knowledge to help couples. And part of the healing is what you have been saying, sacrament of reconciliation or confession. Maybe sometimes the husband and wife may need that. Others will be family adoration, individual time spent in prayer. Use whatever you know to help the couple heal their wounds, yes. And what I'm referring to early on is the therapeutic aspect of it. That we as therapists, we do not heal the wounds. We provide a space for them to heal each other's wound. And if praying together heals the wound, yes. If going for individual confession helps to heal their wounds, please, yes, do that. Yeah. So use whatever means possible to help each other, to help them heal their own wounds. Right? And you provide, as a counselor or as a therapist, the safe place for them. You may suggest during their therapy session to consider those. And that's what I call a safe place for them to think about it, the possibility of confession, praying together, adoration, so forth. Right. Good. Yes?
In your center of Ignacio, you also help homo people in the house.
Homosexual people.
Homosexual, yes.
In Singapore, we have a special counseling place for people suffering, people with homosexual orientation. And our center, we have therapists, one therapist who can help them. But generally, if there's a need, we have a center for them, we can refer them. So you don't need to have all the skills and training in one particular area. That's why I say systemic approach is we need to know who to refer and how to refer these people if they need help, right? So it's important. Okay, so let me go quickly through the short-term and longer-term implementation, what you can do as a family commission, what you can do in your parish, and so forth and so forth, right? So the short-term, first, I think we need to be familiar with the book, Amoris Laetitia. We need to, there are good study guides. The questions I've given you came from the study guides, the earlier question, right? So there are good study guides on this book. So can we do that? Can we take time to read, reflect, and help others to do so? I think that's maybe one of the things we can do in the short term. Diocese, parish priests may want to take the initiative to conduct training, conduct talks, seminars on that book itself, or among yourself. Can we do that? I think there is a call for most parishes or dioceses to set up family focus group setting up family focus group is like setting up youth apostolate in the parish. We need to have dedicated individuals. And if need to, in certain parishes, they pay the youth worker. Can we pay or subsidize or get full-time family workers, family pastoral workers? I think it's also mentioned in the Synod of Bishop. We need to get full-time dedicated workers for family ministry. If not, nothing gets done. And I've noticed that parishes have good youth worker. Usually the youth are very active. The same also, we need to have, if possible, if not volunteer, paid professional who are really dedicated to do the work that needs to be done. Okay? I mentioned assess your own organization, strength, your weakness. What can you do as a group? What can you do? What can you offer? If not, what can you learn from others? Assess your own strengths and limitations, okay, as our resources as a group. And identify the gaps in family ministry. Some of you may feel that helping young couples is very important. But between helping young couples and helping the elderly, what about those married for a long time, or almost married, or marriage in crisis? Is there a gap there that needs to be attended to? Okay. Mentoring, couple mentoring is one of those. Research research have been done in couple family relationship. Can we learn from these researchers? There are many good articles, good books out there. One of it is the book by John Gottman. It's called Seven Habits of Healthy Relationship, right? It's translated also into Chinese, I think in Japanese and so forth. The book came out a long time ago, about 20 years ago. Can we learn from these researchers, couple and family researchers, to inform our practice? Longer term, what can we do in the longer term as a group? I think at the end of the day, we need to develop a good couple or marital and family spirituality based on your lived experience. Without that foundation, I think we'll be hitting or groping the dark. We need a foundation that help us inform our ministry, inform our family ministry practices. Okay? Can we think of that as a group and as a country individually? Can we listen to couples and families? What are the joys, the struggles, the hopes for the family? And these are all part of what we call spirituality. And what is the definition of spirituality? It's basically what we do in our daily life. It's also about spirituality. And it's the same in couple and family work, right? So close collaboration with family commissions, dioceses. Can we learn from each other? Can we share best practices? Can we share our web seminars with one another if you have developed them? Can we learn from universities? If they have web seminars, can we tap into them about relationship, about family life? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to come up with our own. What do they have in universities? You heard of Coursera, right? Coursera programs. In universities like Stanford, they have those programs. And it's available to all the people, for the public. Can we tap into what they have? Coursera. It's a web seminar. And can we learn from them? Right? And there's also the training programs from the University of Minnesota on parenting. You need to subscribe, you need to be a member, you need to pay. Fine. Can we learn from those? Right? Okay. Training laity, seminarians, priests, religious, very important. Without them being informed to have a knowledge of how to work with couples and family, I think we are at risk, right? So can we train our laity, some of those who are interested, and seminarians and religious likewise? Because I believe that at the end of the day, vocation comes from the family. And if you do not have good families, it's difficult to get good vocations from families. Or in fact, don't talk about vocation at all, if the foundation is not there. Right? Establish counseling centers, if possible, in parishes or in archdioceses, pastoral councils, pastoral centers. Do we focusing on family? So we need maybe to pay professionals, people to run it, who are dedicated, who are passionate about family. We need to spend money. That's what we spend for any other things. If you think that it's serious, you have to put the money there. Put the money where the mouth is it? Or the foot is, I don't know. So you need to spend money. All right. Collaboration, as mentioned earlier, this is a long term. With universities, with counseling centers, with research centers, spirituality centers. Right? In Taiwan, there's this professor called Professor Chow Wen-Tao. He's a friend of mine, and he works with families. Can we tap into his expertise? Right? He's a Catholic also, from Taipei, National Taipei University of Education. So we have good Catholics, or we have Catholics in universities. Can we tap into their expertise? And maybe as a group, can we come together once a year to learn our best practices like this? Can we share with one another? Can we learn from each other, right, on a regular basis? Then later on, maybe countries like Southeast Asia, can we invite them to do likewise? China is not here yet, I know. Hong Kong, of course, Hong Kong is part of it. But can we think of people from mainland China, which is very important, because they have a big group of Catholics there. How can we reach out to them? And I think in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, especially in Hong Kong, you have better opportunities. Can we do that? Can we reach out to them? Right. Okay, web education, very important. Website, we can share. Okay. Finally, one more minute I have. 2 minutes. Conclusion is basically to reiterate what I've said earlier. Keep in mind this conceptual framework that will help us inform our practice, our pastoral practice in family ministry. Systemic and developmental approach, that's one. Marital and family spirituality, the other one. And lastly, training and therapy is important to help families in crisis. Okay? And with that, I say thank you very much.